Welcome back to the Salon Owner's Holistic Blueprint podcast. I'm your hostess, Jacqueline Rodriguez, and today we are going to be talking about prices that are raising in the salon and maybe some things that we can do about it. I got Kate from Dip and Lindsay from Plain Products, and they are going to be on, and we're just going to have a great conversation about what is some of the issues coming up on raising prices and maybe some of the solutions that we can figure out. Welcome to the Salon Owner's Holistic Blueprint, your podcast for unlocking the secrets to a thriving salon business through holistic practices. I'm Jacqueline Rodriguez, your host, and join me each week as we explore wellness, sustainability, and business success. Everything from attracting conscious clients to adopting eco-friendly practices. We're going to cover it all to elevate your salon business. So welcome, and thank you all for being on here today with me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So what have you guys seen? Like, what kind of price things have you been dealing with? Because both of you have a product line. So that's a little different than the salon, like being in the salon, but it directly affects the salon prices. So that's a tough battle, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing in raw materials and what's happening behind the scene in manufacturing is congruent to what you're seeing in grocery shopping. So just to show everyone, when you go to buy food, everything is maybe 30 to 40% in some cases more expensive than it used to be. And what I've experienced since we've only launched 2 years ago. And in that 2 years, the raw material costs have increased between 30 and 40% from some of our vendors. And so as a company, we've decided to keep our prices the same and absorb that cost. And that's something that our consumers don't really know, because it's not something I'm not trying to like throw the guilt on them, like, oh, we're absorbing the cost so you can have, like, because I don't think they care, their groceries are at the forefront of their minds, like not how their shampoo and conditioner is, like the costs are going up, but like that's something that just as business owners we've had to deal with, and you have to make that decision. Like I see brands across the spectrum of consumer goods either making announcements that they have to raise prices, even if it's just a small bit, or behind the scenes, they're cutting fat, right? They're cutting off the things that no longer feel that they are worth, like, or just not generating revenue.
Yeah, and that's an important part.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's seeing it. For us, we've tried to make up the difference in a little bit more volume. So trying to buy bigger amounts of things, which creates fun cash flow issues, but using that to offset some of the increase in cost. But I agree with Kate. I mean, for the most part, we just kind of decided to eat it too. I think, and I'd be curious what salon owners think about this, but when you're kind of selling a higher price point, and people are stressed about inflation, you don't want to go even higher. You don't want to be seen as a luxury and too far. So I think a lot of us just felt like we had to just slim down those margins and make it up where we could, instead of going higher, reflecting the higher costs that we have.
Yeah, no, that's it's such an interesting point, because I feel like as a salon owner, I've kind of done the same thing where we're eating some of the cost, and also we have really honed in on value, because we have services. There's like a whole thing with how we can start to add more value, and we're raising our prices with that in mind, not because the prices are raising for everything else, but we're adding more value, and we are kind of putting together a whole experience that is a little different from everybody else. And that's what I teach my students in the academy, is really focusing in on an experience, so that way it's not so based on, obviously, when our prices go up, like we either absorb it or we do, get real serious. And I think it depends with us where we're at in our journey. Like, are we fully booked out? Then a price increase it's okay. But if we're not fully booked out, then that's where you start to toe that line of, are we going to push people over the edge if we do that? So we focus more on experience, and even when the products do go up, how do we up that experience if we want to up our prices?
Have you noticed that people are like opting for different services with the change in the economy? Like less blondes, more shadow roots? Like what's going on the stylist side?
So shadow roots has been a thing for a while. So that has really helped with everybody's pocket for, well, I guess the consumer's pockets. But then that's where like we have always seen like over the last few years that everything's lived in, because that really also went very far during COVID. So we already had that shift coming and people have just stayed with it. Like we had a lot of people stopping color altogether and going natural and going gray. So that was a different, we had to pivot at that point for that. Then we also had to pivot for people going longer in between because they got used to not coming in every 4 to 6 weeks. So we personally in the salon have been pivoting because of that, but also we focus more on wellness. So we have an array of services that is not just based on color and a cut. Like we have Reiki and crystal bowl healing and scalp treatments, and we do an array of different things for wellness that does bring people back in. And that experience for us has been different.
And I think that's important. I mean, I saw some meme or something a long time ago that was like, instead of asking why organic vegetables are so expensive, maybe we should be asking why other things are so cheap. And I think the whole education around the importance of like good ingredients, not just a bunch of chemicals and water in a bottle. Like this is, yes, this bottle of Suave is $3.95, but what are you putting on your body? What is it doing to your hair? All of that versus, really good, natural, like dense that are going to last for a long time, that doesn't just fall out of your hand when you use it. That difference in that education, I think, is a huge part too of what you're saying is, making that sale and showing that the value is there, even though it might be more expensive, it lasts a little bit longer, is better for you in the long run, all of those things.
And that's a huge part. Like we educate every single one of our clients why it is important to have a higher end shampoo, conditioner, styling product. While yes, you can go get Suave or Pantene or whatever those are, $2, $3, $5 a bottle, they're making a huge profit. So what's actually in the bottle, right? And how are you going to come in and spend hundreds of dollars getting your hair done and then go use something that's literally going to wash that out down the drain, right? So it is a lot about education and learning how to talk to your clients, because we're never, I got away from like being salesy behind the chair. Like that was a thing in the industry for a very long time. And it was just like, here, buy my products, buy my products. I got away from that, and it's educational. And this is why we use this. We pick it for a very specific reason. The ingredients that we use last you so much longer. So instead of going through a bottle of Suave, I keep pulling that one out, but going through a bottle of Suave and it's like gone in a month. Yeah, it was only $6. But when you have a product that lasts you 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or dip a year, that's a big difference. So you spend a little bit more on the front end, but you're gaining so much more on the other end.
Yeah. One of the things that I kind of got made fun of by my beauty colleagues was that my bars do last a long time. Like the conditioner especially lasts most people, depending on hair type, around a year. And, they kind of scoffed at this idea that this bar would last so long. And now it's actually one of our biggest assets is that this conditioner bar will last a year. And for some people, they don't like the idea. They don't like having the idea like of a bar sitting exposed in their shower for a long time, even though every wash it keeps its integrity. But now, just as people are trying to decide between buying something like Orbe once a month or buying like a dip bar that lasts them 12, it's a huge money saver for them, and it allows them to come back into the salon to spend money on the treatments that are actually way more fun to spend money on
Right.
than the plastic plastic bottled stuff.
Well, and I feel like, it's sort of against, again, mainstream sort of capitalist. Like, I mean, I think the traditional model is like, how can we figure out how to make people buy things as often as possible? How do we make the battery in the iPhone die within 2 years so everybody has to get another one? So for, brands to be saying like, we want this to last a long time. Don't use a lot, put a pumping on it instead of turning it upside down and squeezing it, like stepping away from all of those things is, something that I think sustainable, thoughtful companies do.
Yeah, it's something I love about your company so much, because I don't think you guys are pushing all this crazy consumerist stuff, and you're making them mindful of sending their bottles back and getting them refilled, which is something that takes like a little bit of extra care, but it is so important to making people realize what they're actually buying. So what Plain does is show people that what you're buying is on the inside. So don't worry about what's around it, you know?
Well, and that has value. Like let's step away from a culture of buying something and then just like throwing it away and buying the next thing of
totally.
There is no, I mean, I think that's like, there is no away. Like things don't magically disappear when we throw them away. They go somewhere, and hopefully that somewhere is a good, like a
and they're only recyclable if you recycle them.
This episode is brought to you by the Green Beauty Community, a vibrant, exclusive platform dedicated to connecting individuals and brands who share a passion for sustainable beauty. They strive to inspire, educate, and empower each member to make informed choices that celebrate beauty while respecting our planet. Become a green beauty advocate by joining the community today. Help us transform the beauty industry. Get access to sustainable education, connect with sustainable brands, and learn more about eco-friendly practices. Click the link in the show notes to get your exclusive discount code today.
Yeah.
But this
and
is
we can get into
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and we can get in a whole other, like, how much plastic actually gets recycled. Not that much.
Yeah, that is a whole nother episode.
That's a whole nother episode. We'll get there. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But it's such an important piece, because I got the same thing from my colleagues, and in the industry, we're very much like overusing. Stylists typically say, okay, you need 10 different products. You need a shampoo and a conditioner, and then you need this, and then you need, 5 different styling products. I'm minimalized. I don't push that on our clients. I don't personally use it. I mean, I've been a stylist for years and years, and I use very minimal products, including my makeup. I do very minimal. That doesn't mean that if you use more, like that's bad. It's just, as leaders, right? Because they do look up to us, and we look up to brands. Like, what are we being taught every single day? And I think just by being in the sustainable and clean world, we're already breaking these norms, right? And then being able to push the envelope a little bit more of like saying, okay, we don't have to be such a disposable, wasteful industry. How do we start bringing that back? That's huge. And that is how my salon saves money too. So if we're talking about like prices are raising and everything, okay, what do we get to like cut back on? Where, yes, we can sell more products, but that's not going to do us any good. It's really not. So where do we get to talk to our clients about educating them on, maybe it is for them right now, they can't afford one product. Okay, so what other options do we have that won't be filled with junk and that would last you a year, right? So giving options to our clients, and then they continue to come back because they don't feel sold to. They don't feel like we're just trying to make a buck. They really feel like we care, which we do in my salon.
Yeah, I also think it's cool. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, there's a difference too between some very specialized products for certain situations, and like, here, this product will work, for most people most of the time in all of these ways. And that education piece, and like you're
Mhm.
saying, like the not oversell of like, oh, we'll start with this and then this, and on Tuesdays do this, and like I think that's a huge piece too of trying to save money. If you're not buying 8 different products, that some will end up on the back of the shelf that you forget about and never to be used again,
Mhm.
then you can afford the better products if there are 3 or 4 that are great.
Yeah.
What's your least used product? What's your under the sink product that you never bring out
Uh,
of anything?
I mean, I'm terrible about styling products, to be honest.
Me
I
too.
try, but this hair just. So, I mean, I have like a bunch of different styling stuff that I've tried at different times, and I'm like, oh, that didn't. But maybe I'll come back around and try it again.
Yeah, mine's mousse. I have a few different mousses and I never use it. And I've continued to buy them. Not, I mean, not anymore, but like for a long time, considering that I already had one, it was like one of those things where I just would buy. I was like, maybe I'll try this other mousse, and it's something that I just have like abandoned my whole, hopes and dreams of what a mousse could do for me.
As far as your big hair look,
I want
Right.
big hair.
We
And
were
I'll
just
never
talking
have
about
it.
big hair.
I've always loved it. It's always been one of those things I've just coveted. I can't have it though.
You just need a stylist to come and do it for you every morning, and then you're fine.
Maybe one
It's
day. That's my dream.
right. Yeah, we'll just make tons of money so that we can. You'll have a stylist. I'll have somebody cook for me. That's what I want. Um, but I actually, it's funny because I have tons of products under my sink, but I actually do use them. My problem is because I go through and I test and use all these products to make sure that they're clean and good for my clients. I end up with like so many different ones. And then I stay with my tried and trues or find new ones that I can bring on. But I think that's more my problem because when I have the products, like I actually do use them, but I don't have so many because I
Mm,
have condensed down. So there's not a bunch of stuff sitting in my shelves that I don't use unless it's like just tons of product. And then I'm just giving it away to my family too. I'm like, here, try this. Tell me what you think.
yeah. I mean, I know after going to a show too, if like any trade show, you come back with like the giant bag of
mhm.
things that you're like, find that later. You're like, oh, I never tried that coffee birch scrub something that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Um,
very wasteful, like the whole show thing. I like when they give you products to sample, but all the little tchotchkes and like pens and things, I'm like, please just keep them. I don't want, or papers. That's a whole
yeah.
nother story.
Yeah. The trade show swag definitely accumulates like crazy, especially if you're there at the end of the trade show and people are just you can't help but have stuff thrown at you because
Oh
people
yeah.
don't want to ship it back.
Yeah.
They'd
They're
rather
like,
just
please take it off my hands.
take it, don't have to stuff it in my car or a box. Lindsay, what has been the biggest thing that's caused you to raise like what's the item that's been the biggest thing for
I mean,
I don't
we
know,
struggle with
raising
shipping.
prices? Shipping,
We
yeah,
really
me too.
struggle with shipping. It's so expensive, and
I
Amazon
know.
has just really ruined the world for what shipping actually costs
Hmm.
because they have such a huge monopoly and so much volume that they don't care what it costs them to ship things. So I mean that's
Yeah.
something that we struggle with for salons as well. I mean, we just were talking to somebody this morning and they're like, it's $30 to ship this 3.5 gallon to California. And we're like, look, we're not inflating that. Like
Right.
that's not
That's the
us putting
cost.
something on it. That's just the cost. And
And
that's
then God forbid you have to insure it.
yeah.
Then you have to insure it to make sure it gets there because things are not getting where they're supposed to be. I don't know whether you're having this experience, but I'm having we lose a lot of money from shipments that just seem to vanish. And even though we pay to insure them, it doesn't matter, like because of the loss of product inside, it's a lot, you know.
Yeah, we see that a lot on the retail side. Things are like, no,
Hmm.
it never showed up. But it says it's in your mailbox. Like, I
Right.
don't understand. It doesn't happen quite as much, except for New York. I mean, I think New York
Hmm.
is always just retail, wholesale. I mean, that's just always tricky because the addresses are so crazy and doors open and don't open and what, I don't know what, I don't understand. I would not want to be a delivery person in New York. That seems like it's insanity.
No. And so, yeah, so shipping is the cost increase in shipping is killing people. And also that expectation, you're right, that Amazon has set for not only delivery times, but also delivery costs. Like I don't think people realize when they shop on, say my website, I don't sell on Amazon, but if they shopped on my website versus Amazon, like Amazon will squeeze a brand into making only a few pennies or maybe a couple bucks off of the product. And I don't think that that's right to do that to businesses that are growing Amazon. Do you know what I mean? Like that it's a parasitic relationship between brand, like Amazon and the brands.
Again, whole other conversation, but yes, when you have a monopoly that is, 50% of the e-commerce market and giant, they can do whatever they want. I mean, we do have a store just for discovery, and yeah, I mean, it's like the money we're going to get goes up, and then about 4 days before they give it to us, it starts magically going back down again because they start taking out all their fees and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part is the whole, I mean, because Amazon is so big, I mean, this is probably another conversation, but because it's so big, then brands, you really do get a lot of recognition, but then what is the cost behind all of that, right? Getting the recognition, and then do they go back to Amazon and buy, or do they come to your website? And how do you, it's kind of the same with salons. Like there was this whole big thing on Groupon, right? Get people in because it's a deal and they could get it, whatever. And then the stylist or the salon would get next to nothing. And they wanted you to discount so far, and then all of their fees and everything. And it was just not quality.
Did that work for you guys? Would people come back after the?
No, because
discount shoppers don't come back.
Bingo. Yep. Bingo. That's discount shoppers, especially when it comes to, like, I think especially with services, because they kind of bounce around where they, like, I would never go to someone like that just because I want to know, I do my research. I do really, like, I don't even shop on Groupon because I want to do my research and look further into that. So that was not a lucrative thing for us. The idea was to get people in and then get them, through the long term. But I would say 90% didn't come back for long term.
Well, it also upsets the customers that are paying full price for the same service, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think that maybe like we didn't get any pushback. I only did it once, like 12 years ago, and it was not it. So I didn't stay in it long term enough to be able to see. But I don't think that people really know the pricing unless you're like out. I mean, most of our clients don't know what each other are paying unless they're talking to each other.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is those conversations happen off-site, right? Between neighbors, between friends. And then you find and that disrupts everything. Like, for example, do you know the company ClassPass? They used to sell like spots in boutique fitness studios. And what happened, it was kind of like the Groupon, but the idea, but it was like selling like empty airplane seats in boutique fitness studios. And what would happen was the people, like in the beginning, it seemed like a good idea and it's still a great idea, but I'm not dogging on the idea. But what happened was you got pushback from people that were paying the premium prices for these fitness studios to go to these classes, and then having, transient people come in and out. And because usually, when you have like these women boutique studio, fitness studios, everyone in them, it's part of your routine. And then it changed kind of the dynamic of what was happening in there. So it's interesting to see how like that kind of flash discounting kind of messes with your core business. And, it's, I don't know whether you have this, Lindsay, but I have flash sale businesses reaching out to Dip all the time about like wanting to do these promotions. Like on our platform, you could do a BOGO event, for 2 days, or you can do, a 50% off. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I don't want.
there seems to be a huge market of people, you mean like from the Today Show to,
Mhm.
sort of home shopping thing that are like, just give us 5,000 of your best sellers for, 20% and we'll sell thousands for you. And I was
It's like,
like,
I'm not discounting my work for your profit. That's what
well,
those places are asking us to do.
yeah, well, and it just doesn't, I mean, like that far, like we're basically paying you to do
Right.
it. And, for small brands, it just doesn't work. If you're a huge, P&G or whatever that owns these tiny brands and can write it off in other places, that makes sense. But for, little tiny brands, it's like, well, that's I'm giving
Yeah.
you everything. Here
I
you go.
just I just don't like the idea of one person paying $32 for my conditioner bar and then someone else paying I don't know, 16 or $18 for it. I don't think it's fair.
Right.
And I get criticized for that a lot because we don't do sales. And if we do, it's like very few and far between. But I cringe at this idea that you water down the because as we mentioned in the beginning, the prices of everything's going up. And then if we discount, where does that leave us as brand owners? It squeezes us totally into, you know, oblivion where we'll be done.
No,
Well, and
and I
that's
think
the only way we can stay alive is by
Mhm.
not, we've got to think about that. And same thing with my students, like I teach them, don't discount, like don't put sales for, discounting or free this or, that you get 20% off of a haircut. Add more value,
Mhm.
have them talking about it and loving it so much that maybe they come a little less so that they can fit it in their budget, but they're coming and they are raving about it and they feel the entire experience versus just feeling like they got a deal. Because most people, when you get a deal, you're not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back because I got such a great deal. You're going back because of the experience. So
Yeah.
right, you
being
wouldn't go
where,
back just on the deal alone. It has
Right.
to
And
be a good
you don't
experience.
want your stylist getting tipped on the deal. You want them getting tipped on the whole experience.
Right.
yeah,
Like that's important. Like these it's the same amount of work whether they give a deal or not. And then it kind of, not for everyone. There's just some people that tip on the full price, but a lot of people don't.
yeah.
Well, I think that the takeaway for me on this is like bargain shoppers don't come back. Like that's what I heard loud and clear. So I think that's a good and I think also just the selling the value and the education and
Mhm.
explaining to people why it costs what it costs is
Yeah.
so important. It's
Yeah,
not just like buy this, it's buy this because.
I had someone on TikTok comment recently. They're like, I wish this was more affordable because I love it. And I'm like, I wish it was more affordable too, man. Like that was my response. I wish it was more affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I would
I mean,
love
I
for it to
agree.
be.
I'm like, this is what it costs. Like,
I agree with you.
like you don't have the jet out back that I'm secretly funding. Like, this is really what it costs to do this and pay everybody else who helps make it and helps package it up and helps explain it. But like,
Yeah.
and we do. I mean, we're like, here's what it actually costs to ship it to you, not what you're
Mhm.
paying.
Mhm.
That has to be in there too, because nobody will pay what it actually costs to ship. So there's a lot of things in the
Well,
prices that we can't put in
cost
there.
of shipping is what consumers assume. So ours is 850. It's generally sometimes we gain a couple cents and sometimes we lose a couple cents on depending on where it goes. So we always make people pay 850 up until $75. But what you don't see on the consumer side is that when you have a direct to consumer purchase, a lot of companies have to pay per item, per pick and pack to put stuff into the box. And sometimes that can add on another $5-6 just in getting the box closed with the right products in it and the tape and sent out. So when you think about shipping, you're not even on the consumer side, you're not even thinking about all of the other little tiny add-on things that we're dealing with on our side.
Yeah. But I think that knowing all of that and then really focusing on how we educate our clients on that, right? Because, getting everything from to the consumers, or if you're getting it to salons and we're trying to keep our doors open, really taking a look at what does that all cost,
Mhm.
educating our clients, and then on top of that, realizing it's okay if people can't afford it right now. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to go, like, having some compassion, right? That things are. So working with our clients to find out what is going to be best for them right now, right? Cut your expenses where you can. If you can raise the value of your services and the experience, then you can raise your prices. But if that's not feasible right now, cut back where you can and work with your clients on how can they still come in for what they want, make them not feel bad about not being able to afford it, right? Really showing compassion and make a plan that works for them so that they can keep up with their hair, not feel bad about it, not have to go down to, you know, the Cuttery or whatever. Like, I'm not naming any names. There's not a salon called the Cuttery, I don't think, at least. But you know what I'm saying? Like, having to get their stuff somewhere else so that they feel bad about it, right? And so many times we see people leaving the salon because they feel embarrassed, because they feel like there's no give with the salon, not discounting, but creating a time, not a timeline. What is that word I'm looking for? But like a plan of action to be able to get the client what they need, but at a rate that they can afford, even if that is spreading it out. They'll end up leaving, and then you lose even more if you're not working with them.
Absolutely.
Great advice.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a tough battle out there. And that's why I was so excited to have this conversation, because the economy is one thing, prices being raised on all the products and our services. Like, it kind of is this full circle thing, and you have to make things work so that you can keep the doors open. You as product, like brands, you can't just absorb everything all the time, or else literally won't be open. And then everybody's going to be upset when their favorite products are no longer because they always got a discount. So it's really just kind of thinking outside of the box and not going down this whole consumer thought process that we always have been taught in this industry. Think a little bit differently, work with some brands that also are trying to do great and that would last your clients longer. I mean, both of your brands, like, I'm proud to be able to say, like, hey, these will last you and they're not going to harm you at the same time. So buy less, spend a little bit more up front. And if you literally, I did the calculations one time with a client right there at the chair, because I was like, okay, so this product's costing you $5, but you have to re-up every single month. We ended up seeing that it actually saved them, I think, like $3, but still, it saved them $3 to get a better product. They just paid up front instead of paying little by little.
Yeah, it's really smart.
You got to work with the clients. So anything else before we wrap this one up?
No, as a client of a hair salon myself, I appreciate when a stylist does stuff to make the experience feel richer. You know, I think something as simple as adding that scalp massage in, which is like free, makes the whole experience so much nicer, and it makes it feel special and worth it. And even though you're getting your hair colored the same way, for me, I get it colored now the same way every time. Every time it feels special. And even if the price raises a little bit, it's still something that's totally worth it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not that in and out. Like, I literally left the salon and started my own thing because I could not handle this whole in and out, get the next person in and like quickly out. And you don't have time to create those relationships. We have too much of a relationship and a responsibility as stylists and salon owners that if we don't create those relationships, you know, we're doing such a disservice to them. And quite honestly, me, like, that's what I love about my job, is serving on a different level. If I'm just chopping your hair and hurrying you out the door, I'm exhausted by the end of the day. and I hate my job. Like I had gotten to the point where I hated what I did because it just didn't fulfill me anymore, right? And to each its own. If that's the stylist you like to be, I'm not judging. It's just you have to look at, again, what is the experience you're creating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, thank you both for being on the episode today. And I loved this conversation. I can't wait for the series. We're going to have plenty of conversations around this. And if you're listening, let us know what you thought. Like, did we not answer a question? Is there something that you want to know about pricing and how to raise them, or how to, just survive in this type of economy? Let us know and we will have a discussion around it. Thank you, and see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Salon Owner's Holistic Blueprint. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow and subscribe. Until next time, stay inspired, stay passionate, and keep thriving in the world of holistic beauty.